There are plenty of recipes for Café de Paris butter on the internet. They're all basically butter mixed with herbs and spices and molded into a tube. But why is it called Café de Paris? As with many recipes, this butter took the name of the restaurant where it was served, though not where it was invented. On the restaurant's website, they explain it was Mr. Boubier, owner of the Coq d'Or restaurant in Geneva, who invented a leveled-up butter recipe, which he used to serve grilled beef. He taught his daughter his secret recipe, and in turn, she passed it on to her husband, the owner of the Café de Paris restaurant, where he started serving the L'Entrecôte Café de Paris, which quickly became very popular. It's actually the only dish they serve at the restaurant today, aside from one type of salad, fries, and a wide variety of desserts. When looking for pictures of the famous L'Entrecôte Café de Paris, I found that the meat is served over a bit of Café de Paris sauce, as opposed to what is usually shared online as Café de Paris butter. As you can see, everyone seems to place a slice of butter on top of the meat and let it melt. And it's just butter, not a sauce made with the butter, which is what the original recipe is. I guess that the Café de Paris butter has evolved into a reinterpretation of the original version, as the recipe remains secret, or at least I haven't been able to find it. So, even though the Paris part from Café de Paris has nothing to do with the city of Paris itself, I took inspiration from this idea to create my own Café de Buenos Aires butter. Maybe it would have been easier to just call it chimichurri butter and avoid having to tell all that story, but we like geeking about food over here. Just as a disclaimer, chimichurri is not only from Buenos Aires. It is a sauce used in all of Argentina. I just decided to call it that way because Paris is a city, not a country, and of all the cities in Argentina, I went with the one I was born in. The origin of chimichurri is unknown. There are some theories I read online, but I will save them for after the recipe. To be honest, this is quite a straightforward recipe, and maybe you'll be able to guess how it goes just by reading the name. I mean, it's just butter mixed with chimichurri, but I'll show you how to make it anyway, even though you didn't ask. By the way, this is that type of preparation that every person changes slightly and claims theirs as the only correct way of doing it. So maybe in another recipe you see someone add different quantities or slightly different ingredients. This is the chimichurri I do, I love it, I think it's delicious, and if you have other ways of doing it, share it in the comments so we can all learn from one another. So, for my chimichurri you'll need 200 grams of butter, 1 red bell pepper, 8 cloves of garlic, the juice of 1 lemon, 1 spring onion, the green part only, 6 tablespoons of dry oregano, 3 tablespoons of dry parsley, 2 tablespoons of dry tarragon, which is not traditional but I like it, and a bunch of fresh parsley. I used maybe 12 to 16 stems, but remember, quantities don't need to be exact. This is how I've been storing my fresh herbs lately. I put the bunch of herbs in a glass with water and they stay fresh for longer. The bug is just to avoid getting the fridge dirty. Make sure you wash all your fresh produce before using them. Thinly chop your fresh herbs. For me, it was just the parsley. You can put them all in a container while you continue chopping the rest of the ingredients. Cut the pepper into very small cubes. Then, thinly slice the green part of the spring onion. And finally, peel and thinly cut the garlic cloves. In recipes where you don't mind losing the structure of the garlic cloves, you can smash them with the back of your knife to make the peeling easier. Then I cut the top and bottom of the clove, this way the skin almost peels off on its own. Or at least a bit more easily. You could chop everything in the food processor, trying not to puree the ingredients by blitzing in short intervals. But to be honest, I've always done it by hand. You will probably make a bit of a mess with this recipe, but don't worry too much about it. It's worth it and easy to clean afterwards. Put the garlic into a mortar and add 2 tablespoons of salt. When using a mortar and pestle, I like doing this with a kitchen towel so it prevents it from moving around. Then start adding all the fresh produce bit by bit. You may think it's a lot of ingredients to fit in the mortar, but the more you mash, the more the volume will reduce. Once you start getting all the juices of the herbs and vegetables out, start adding the dry ingredients and keep mashing until the fresh and dry ingredients have mixed together. Cut the lemon in half and squeeze all its juice into the mortar. I like using a small strainer to prevent the seeds from getting into the mix. You might have seen people using their hands directly, but I don't like doing that because 1. My fingers are too small and seeds get through anyway, and 2. Lemon juice is extremely dehydrating and my skin already looks and feels like scales. At this point, if you were to add neutral vegetable oil, you would have a perfect chimichurri sauce. But we're changing the oil for butter. Finally, add the butter in cubes. And yes, you already know what to do. Mash all the mix until you get a homogeneous distribution of the chimichurri in the butter. The water from the vegetable and the lemon juice will naturally separate from the butter. But don't worry, it's part of the recipe. If you're like me, maybe you have half the chimichurri on your tabletop, so it's time to clean it. Now, all you have to do is transfer it to an airtight container. It stores really well in the fridge for a few weeks, and if you freeze it, you'll be able to use it for up to a year. Chimichurri gets better with time. So if you're planning on hosting a barbecue in a few weeks, I recommend you prepare it ahead so it has time to develop its amazing flavor. I tried looking for chimichurri in some food encyclopedias and had no luck. I found a BBC article where 4 main theories are explained. The first one is about Jimmy McCurry, an Irish immigrant who was looking for Worcestershire sauce, and long story short, the name Jimmy McCurry turned into chimichurri somehow. The second one explains that captive British soldiers asked for condiments by saying, "Give me the curry," which Argentinians translated into chimichurri. The third one, and personally the one I think makes the most sense, is that it was a sauce taken originally from the Basque, which they called chimichurri. Argentina and the Basque country have been historically closely connected, so it wouldn't surprise me if this sauce had been taken from them. And the term itself sounds quite Basquish, but this is just a personal thought and I have no proof of it. I found no Basque recipes for chimichurri, so who knows? The last one, taken from what Argentinian historian Daniel Balsameda says, the term chimichurri comes from the Quechua, an indigenous population from the Andes. But I don't really know where Balsameda discovered this. I found this tweet from him, and as you can see, he doesn't give any explanation or source whatsoever. There is, however, a document written by Balsameda where he also mentions chimichurri as a Quechua term, but still, I wasn't able to find exactly how he knew about this. Okay, now you have a whole tub of Café de Buenos Aires butter. What can I do with it, you might be wondering? You can spread it on warm butter and eat it. Not the most nutritious meal, but extremely delicious nonetheless. You can use it as everybody does with Café de Paris butter. Top your steaks with it and let it melt. Or you can wait for the recipe I'll be posting on my newsletter very soon. It's my take on the Argentinian version of shepherd's pie. You can subscribe to the newsletter on the link I'll leave in the description box down below, so you don't miss it out. Do you have any sauce in your country that you can turn into a Café de Paris butter? Maybe a Thai pignin plat? Or a Spanish mojo picon? Let us know in the comments.